Welcome to INAN's Advocate. INAN's Advocate is a platform for lawyers having less than 5 years of practice to deliver a lecture of the topic of their choice. Today we have with us Advocate Chirag Mukesh Unadkat. Chirag Mukesh Unadkat is working with Solicitor Piyush Shah. Solicitor Piyush Shah is a solicitor from England and Wales. Advocate Chirag Mukesh Unadkat has pursued his LLB from MKES College of Law. He has pursued his Masters in Law from NMIMS and specialized in criminology. Mr. Advocate Chirag Mukesh Unadkat is also a visiting faculty for various colleges and law schools. So without wasting further time, I would like to call Advocate Chirag Mukesh Unadkat to deliver his lecture on the topic of conveyance and deemed conveyance. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you Hammurabi Tablet. Thank you Mr. Advocate Rahul Maskar and Advocate Nikhil Dixit for inviting me for the wonderful topic on my research on my topic, which is the conveyance and the deemed conveyance of a land. Now coming to the topic. The state of Maharashtra was set up in the year 1st May 1960. After the 1960, there were lots of acts and amendments on various other laws which were been framed. There were basically 4 basic essential elements in everyone's life, that is food, clothing, shelter and livelihood. So in which every aspect and every essential element, there are various statutory bodies who look after that. So in which one of them is the housing, that is in which we say food, clothing, housing and shelter, right? For shelter there is one statutory authorities which looks after that whether there is a proper way and proper working of your livelihood or not. So coming to my topic, I will be covering up 5 different topics, in which what is a deemed conveyance, what is a conveyance, what is deemed conveyance, which are the laws enacted for the conveyance and the deemed conveyance, which is the MOFA Act, that is Maharashtra Ownership and Flats Act 1963. Then what are the documents which are to be required for the conveyance and the deemed conveyance. Next is the stamp duty, what needs stamp duty which need to be paid, and last is the landmark judgments for the deemed conveyance, and overall I will be summing with a small conclusion to it. Before that, I would like to give you a few facts of the case, few facts of the how and what this basically deemed conveyance is about. According to statistical data in across the state of Maharashtra, there are more than 22,000 registered cooperative housing societies in the city. I am talking about the city of Mumbai, but which are more than 1 lakhs across the state. But every year just less than 574 applications have been made in the state for the process of deemed conveyance. I am adding to it that according to the latest statistical data of December 2021, in which 14,376 cooperative housing societies had obtained deemed conveyance. Over 70,000 housing societies are still in the receipt of the deemed conveyance. The act has been a boon for lots of cooperative societies in Maharashtra as well as in the state, as well as in the city of Mumbai. There was as I mentioned about the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act 1963. There was an amendment in the year 2008. The amendment was we can say the boon for lots of cooperative societies, in which the process of deemed conveyance was very simplified over the period of time, and due to which there were various notifications which have been circular notifications had came over the past times, which will be covering up in the later stage. Now coming to the part, what are the parties which are involved in this dispute? As I mentioned earlier, we will be covering 2 important topics. The one is the conveyance and second is the deemed conveyance. Whereas what are the parties to a dispute, in which there are 2 parties. The first is the promoter and second is the flat buyer and the society. According to section 2C of the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act 1963, which states about the promoters. Promoters are of basically 2 kinds. One is the landowner and second is the builder or a developer or the owner of the land. Where similarly, the most common issue over the period we have seen in the suburbs of Mumbai, not in the Mumbai, but there are various other cities in Maharashtra state, like Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, and various other small cities in which there are cooperative societies which have been constructed in the common land, right? But there is no division, there is no bifurcations, and no there is subdivision of land. Every society wants a proper independent status and proper independent entity, but due to which the reason they are the failing reason is that they are not getting a proper conveyance of their land on their own name. We will be highlighting on the other aspects. Now coming to the next part is that flats, buyers and the society, in which has been further classified into two areas. The one is a single, and second, single means the single owner of the flat, and second is the cooperative housing society, in which the cooperative housing society itself goes for the process of the deemed conveyance. Adding to it, now comes to the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act of 1963. As I mentioned earlier, the the government had implemented this act in the year 1963, and which was also known as the MOFA Act of 1963, which was been further amended in the year 2007, but which got an assent from the President of India, and which got assent on 25th February 2008. The main essential highlight of this act is that flat owners get a separate entity. When flat owners get a statutory right, one. Second, can a deemed building be means all the buildings will have a relevant papers to it. Every documents, the society will have a independent documents with it, so that they have a legal existence in the court of law. Next is that they can register their agreements as well. And last is that they maintaining the property till society is formed. As I mentioned earlier regarding that the promoter, the role of promoter will play a key role, promoter or a developer, as and when it has been said that it is in the act itself says that once the developer constructs a building, within 4 months they have to hand over the possession, and they have to give the conveyance of the land to the society. If not, the society will go for the process of deemed conveyance, which will be talking in the later stage of the lecture. As I mentioned, now coming to the section 11, there are two important sections in this. The most important one is section 11. What is section 11 says that the developer need to take necessary steps to complete the conveyance of the land and the building of the society. Well, it is rightly said that many of them we have whenever you go to buy a flat in the own market, you will be the owner of your flat, right? But you will not be the owner of the whole building. It is rightly said that. But usually the society will be the owner of the land is in the process when the society will be going for the process of conveyance or a deemed conveyance. If the developer doesn't give within the 4 months from the date, then the society may go for the process of deemed conveyance. The promoter, that is the developer or the builder, to execute deliver all the relevant documents of title. The title means the title clearance of the land, if whether there is a litigation or there is no litigation to it. Next is that they have to execute, as I mentioned previously, they have to execute the process of conveyance within the 4 months from the date on which the society has been registered. Then next is that promoter need to rectify the defect before conveying the title. And last is that if the promoter or a developer is not following the compliance, if they are not following the due process of law, that within 4 months they are not complying with that, the members should get the society should get a conveyance, then he shall be criminally liable under the section 13, which mentions about the criminal liability of the promoter, for which he will be imprisonment for the term of 3 years, or along with a fine or with a both. Now come what is conveyance. Conveyance means a document confirming the transfer of title. We have seen that there are lots of documents to it, which are we can say that conveyance deed, sale deed. But what is basically conveyance deed? Conveyance deed is about the documents confirming the title. Okay, and next is that it indicates the process whereby the right, title and the ownership of the immovable property is transferred in favor of the another person. And last, the main object of the conveyance is that it becomes that's the owner of the land, right, will become the legal owner. They will have a legal existence to the land. Next is that to make the entries in the government records, that is a mutation entry, the PR card and various other documents in which society will have an independent legal existence. That means previously we can say that before the conveyance they don't have any existence, due to which there are many buyers who are the flat buyers also, when they want to go through the process of loan from the bank, they need to get a loan from the bank. So it becomes very complicated procedure for the flat owners or the owners of the flat to get a loan to it. So due to which, once the conveyance is been obtained by the society, it is very easy and a smooth process for all the flat buyers. And next is that to have a free marketable title. That means this title, the society will have a free marketable title across the wherever they want. When in future if the society, it has been right over the times we have seen in suburbs of Mumbai, there are lots of ongoing redevelopment projects which are going on. The main reason, if the society doesn't have a proper redevelop, if society doesn't have all the marketable titles or doesn't have any legal titles, we can say, or doesn't have the conveyance, then it is a dark side that it is impossible for the members of the society to go for the redevelopment. If the members of the society wants to go for any order, we can't say that any alteration or modification inside the flat, but we can say that if the society wants to go for a renovation, or we can say that structural repairs, for that also they require a requisite permissions from the developer or the owner of the land. So it becomes the owners and the landlords, we have a upper hand as compared to the members of the society. So due to which the members need to get the conveyance on their own name. The society needs to get the conveyance in their own name. Then second, as I mentioned earlier, that to get a proper title, which is one of the biggest advantage. Second is that retaining the additional FSI. The additional FSI is one of the key point in the course of a redevelopment project. Whereas now we have seen that if the society has a proper open space, if the society has a proper good amount of garden area, then they can utilize that particular FSI in the future redevelopment projects for its own society. Next is that loan can be raised by way of mortgage, which is one of the key element right now on the, which is the one of the, we can say that the self redevelopment concept. The concept of self redevelopment in the suburbs of Mumbai is one of the booming concepts, in which the society, if it has its own conveyance in its own land, then the society can get a good amount of loan from the financial institutions or from the banks. Next is that permission for reconstruction will be possible, right? The society can go for the process of redevelopment because many of the societies are 25 years, 30 years or 35 years old not in suburbs of Mumbai, but especially in cities of Pune, then Nagpur, Nasik, in other areas also. Then construct additional floors by TDR, that is the transfer development rights will be given by for the construction purpose, and they will get an additional TDR so that they construct for the process of self redevelopment, they will get an additional floor to construct, and the society will be beneficial by way of selling the additional flats. Then receive compensations for the development. As soon as once you get a clear marketable title, it is but obvious that the developer will be having a looking eye for the society, and then the process of redevelopment and the members will be getting a benefit to it. What is the importance of conveyance when we are going through the same? What are the important essential elements, or we can say what is the importance of the conveyance, right? As it is that transfer of ownership over the land as it constructed. Second is that if the society is merely a tenant, right? There are two concepts as mentioned. It is basically a tenancy aspect as a non-tenancy aspect. We are under the umbrella of Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act, as the members are the owners of the flat, where it is that if the tenants, we have seen in the South Bombay, there are lots of tenancy premises still ongoing and existing in there. Not in South Bombay, but across the Maharashtra state also, where the concept of still the Pagadi system is ongoing, wherein it is very difficult for the tenants who are residing in this particular premises to renovate or reconstruct his old building, for which they require the permission of the landlord, due to which we have seen that over the past times, especially during the monsoons, many of the buildings have been collapsed. The corporations are issuing 354 notices, and due to which the buildings have been dilapidated under the category of C1 category, right? And sometimes the corporations are taking courageous steps to demolish these buildings just to safeguard the life. If the members or the owners join hands and get the conveyance in the name of the society, or if the members or the owners work for a humanitarian ground, then definitely the conveyance would be named in the society, and they can go for the process of redevelopment in the future ends. Then they cannot then the second is that, as I mentioned, that they will get an additional FSI and commercial developments. They can construct a building in their own, and they can prepare the commercial units, due to which they can sell in the open market also. And the worst side of this, it requires permission. It is but obvious that it requires a proper permission from the owners, the landlords and the developers, and to carry out the repairs. For the repairs, now come to the what are the documents, essential documents. As I mentioned in the starting, I will be covering up the three important aspects. The second aspect is that what are the essential documents which are to be required for the conveyance. The one is that society registration certificate, which will be with the society. Second is the stamp duty registration proof, which is basically every member, when he purchases the flat, right, he has to pay the duty. So once he gets the duty, that it is the receipt which has been which is given by the revenue department, so that will be affixed to it. Second is the agreement of sale, which is basically between the promoter or the developer with the purchaser, which is the owner of the flat. So fourth is that the commercial certificates which has been issued by the municipal authorities. Then the CC and the OC, that is a commencement certificate, completion certificate and the occupation certificate, which is a concerned authority to the builder and to the developer, which we can get it from the developers. Then approved building plans, which is usually we can get it from the municipal authorities. 712 extract, which we say that 712, which we can get it from the Tahsildar or concerned authorities. Form 6 mutation entry, search report, we can get it from the advocates, right? The property card. Then next is the index 2, that is which we get it from the sub register of assurance. Then NA order, then development agreement, which is between the landowners and the developers, and the conveyance deed or sale deed, which is between the builders and the society. So these are the essential documents, which are the key important documents when we want to go to the process of conveyance. Now come to the point of stamp duty. The stamp duty payable is under the Bombay Stamp Act in 1958, right? Then next is that it is between the what? It is at the time of agreement. There are three parts. It is between the agreement, it is at the time of possession, and last is at the time of conveyance. So all these three times you need to pay the duty to it. The stamp duty rate on agreement may vary from time to time. Previously it was on the 6% on the value of 100 rupees, and the property value will be on the amount of the conveyance, provided that every flat owner has to pay a duty to the agreement as per the market value and the registered agreement. There was one incident wherein one flat buyer who had purchased the flat, but he had not paid the duty. When he was enjoying the benefits of not paying the duty from the starting. But when the society went for the conveyance of the land, that flat buyer had to pay more than a sufficient, which was amounting to lakhs of rupees, to pay the duty, because in the initial times when he had purchased the flat prior to this act, he had never paid the duty to it. So it is but obvious that when the society will be going for the conveyance, each and every individual member, every flat member has to pay the duty, which is a part to it. Then there was an important circular which I mentioned, which I was narrating about, the important circular for the deemed conveyance, which was dated 12th April 2012. The circular was basically for the purpose of deemed conveyance, and on the latest agreements of the duty, whether the duty is been paid or not, which is the main essential element, and then the chain of agreements are not required for the deemed conveyance. That was the key features of that circular. Further, that in respect of those which are not been registered, or penalties have been imposed by the increase of rupees 10,000 to 50,000. There are penalties been imposed. And next is that the promoter can be convicted or been disqualified for the period of 5 years, and he will not get the permission of license to construction over the period of time. There were advantages to that circular of that. And what are the status of the conveyance and the stamp duty? That is okay. And remedies for the conveyance. What are the remedies which we get it for the conveyance? Is that what remedies we can do is that we can file a civil suit under the Specific Relief Act 1963. Then there is a criminal case under section 13, as I mentioned, under the Maharashtra Ownership Flat Act 1963. Under the Consumer Protection Act also you can seek your remedy, Consumer Protection Act 1986, wherein file for the case for defective services. And last is that we can file a complaint with the competent authority of the District Deputy Register, DDR, right? Now coming to my last topic, which is the deemed conveyance. In the year 2007, right, the amendment came after, the concept of deemed conveyance was introduced, wherein, as I mentioned with my previous statistics, the number of registration process, the process of deemed conveyance is ongoing. And the thing is that there are many societies which are still in the process of deemed conveyance. The concept of the common difference between the deemed conveyance and the conveyance is that in conveyance, the landlord and the owner can give a conveyance to the society, that is after the construction of the building. But in case if when it comes to the deemed conveyance, within the 4 months, if the developer or landlord is not ready and willing to give the conveyance to the society members, then the members have a right that they can execute to the court of law by way of by approaching to the district deputy registrar, which was been introduced in the year 2008. Then then they can move before the district deputy registrar and get the conveyance of the land in their own name by way of deemed conveyance. Then, as it was been as the deemed conveyance has been governed under section 11 subclause 3 of the Maharashtra Ownership Flat Act 1963. The provision, as I mentioned, there was another good statistics which states about that only 1200 within 4 years of the date on which the bit statistics are a bit old, but only 1200 out of 78,000 housing societies have applied for the deemed conveyance after 4 years. Means in 2012, the data is of 2012, only 1200 societies out of 78,000, right, which is something astonishing figures. But members can exhort their rights and remedies in case for the deemed conveyance. And in 2008, Maharashtra state had appointed this authority, which is the competent authority which is holding to it. And basically the rights have been of two types. The holding rights are, one is the lease right, and second is the rights of the land are for the lease right and for the freehold rights. How to obtain a deemed conveyance? Now coming to the point, the by way of what? The one is I mentioned by the builder, second is by the court case by going to the district deputy registrar, and last is that by court case, as I mentioned, under the specific relief act, and last is by the way of the deemed conveyance. The procedure of deemed conveyance is very simple, wherein the first essential element is that society need to apply with the relevant documents. But before that, how it can be? The society need to take a SGM, that is a special general body meeting. For need, the society need to put a proposals for the purpose of deemed conveyance. As they get a proper appointment in that meeting, the society should go with a resolution stating that the society needs to go for the process of deemed conveyance. Then there will be appointment of 3 persons. The one who will be looking after the overall management, second the need of an advocate or solicitor who will be looking after that whether the smooth going function, and third is the person licensing, we can't say the licensing person, but who would be looking after the stamp duty registration aspect, right, who would be covering the 3 appointments. And after the 3 appointments, the society may go for the process of deemed conveyance. So that in that all the relevant documents, in which one MOFA agreement, Maharashtra Ownership Flat Agreement, which is executed between the promoter and one of the buyer. Once MOFA agreement of any one member, they have to submit it to the registrar stating that he is one of the member, and list of the chain documents, if there are, if any, then they need to give it to them. Verification of documents which need to be done, then there should be an inquiry which need to be carried out, and promoter should issue the show cause notice, that is on a unilateral instrument. Then the DDR comes into the picture. Then how DDR will be coming into the picture, the members of the society make an application to the district deputy registrar for the purpose of deemed conveyance. Then the district deputy registrar will issue summons to the developer or to the promoters or to the landlord stating that the same application had to be heard before the district deputy registrar. The process, it takes around 6 months, wherein the hearing of documents takes place, the exchange of hearing of documents, so then with supporting documents, then at the end the promoter or the landlord or the society has to give a written submission to the district deputy registrar, and he will check, he will scrutinize whether all the documents are perfect or not. Along with it, then after that he will pass an appropriate order, and then the award or order will be passed by the district deputy registrar, and then the conveyance will be in the favor of the society. But before that, how it works is that only the receipt of the opinion, as I mentioned, that there will be arguments to be done the once the district deputy registrar will give its order and decree, it will be in the issue of the conveyance of the land will be in the favor of the society. But what's next? That there need to be registration of the deemed conveyance, which is the key important thing. That you need to give the proper deemed conveyance deed. Then it should be sent to the adjudication department for the stamp duty purpose. Then lodge for the registration with the sub registrar. Then the sub registrar will issue the show cause notice to the builder and to the developer that the landlord that the deemed conveyance is in the favor of the society, and then dedicate the fate to register the conveyance deed. So these are the key important things, which is the last part. And then what are the acts which are in the rules applicable to this whole conveyance under deemed conveyance is the Registration Act 1908, Bombay Stamp Act 1958, Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act 1960, because the society needs to take the proper meetings, regular AGMs, AGMs, SGMs, for which the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act 1960 is also important, for which the society is registered or not. Then come the Income Tax Act to verify that if there is any tax liabilities to the vendor. And then the last is the Maharashtra Ownership Flats Act 1963, under the flats which have been purchased or sold. Coming to the conclusion to it, there are 3 landmark judgments to the conveyance and the deemed conveyance. I would be highlighting those 3 judgments. That is Sushil Samir Cooperative Housing Society Limited versus the DDR. Then second is the Ratna Rupal Cooperative Housing Society versus Rupal Builders and others. And last is that Messrs. Savan Constructions and other versus Sri Gurucharya Cooperative Society. And now coming to the conclusion to it, these are the 3 landmark judgments, which landmark judgment states about the how the deemed conveyance, the process of deemed conveyance is done. So once if the party to it, if the party is not ready and wishing and willing to is not ready with the orders, means the orders which are not in the favor of the, sometimes it could be the orders would not be in the favor of the society also, or it might be not in the favor of the promoter or the developer. There is a remedy for it by way of appeal, but not an appeal, by way of a writ petition before the Honorable High Court. Then once the order has been, you can challenge the order of the competent authority, that is the DDR, by way of writ petition under Article 226 and 227 of the Indian Constitution, which states that you can go for a writ petition. And then, like I would like to conclude by, that is, it is appropriate to say that the process of deemed conveyance has been boon for our usual of more than thousands of societies. As mentioned earlier, more than process of deemed conveyance is ongoing. There are many societies which are going for the deemed conveyance, likewise in cities of Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, Nagpur and various other cities. And last is that it gives the power to the societies themselves to redevelop and to choose their home wisely with their own choice without any order or any other appeals, right? So like I would like to conclude with it, that how the process of deemed conveyance is very simple. It is a process in which it takes only 6 months from the date on which the application has been filed, and the society will get with all the requisite documents. If the society has all the requisite documents which the district deputy register requires, and then the deemed conveyance, the conveyance of the land will be in the favor of the society. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the patient listening and the hearing. Thank you very much.
So Chirag, thank you very much. It was nice listening to you, and I think you have touched a very dear and near topic of a lot of societies who may be in the process or who are trying to get the deemed conveyance. So I think this kind of a lecture will really give them a way or a path as to how they should progress. So thank you very much, and this is a small token from Hammurabi.
Thank you, sir.